Sech Avoda zara daf nun zayin amar aleph, 6 lines from the top. They're starting from the words Avoda. Sorry, but Avoda the Bidam. There was a story that was in the city of Bidam. There was this guy who climbed up a tree, a date tree, and he brought with himself a lulav. While he was coming down, the tip of the lulav touched the wine of the yid, with unintentionally. Rav Paskin and was matir to sell the wine to a guy, meaning the issue was only in drinking, but not in ano. Rav Kahana said to Rav, Omar, the Ahuda Omar, Tini ben Yemei, but he himself said, Rav had already paskined that even somebody, a child who has no das, if he touches the yain nesach, it touches the yain, becomes yain nesach. So that is a here also, we should say, even though it's shalei b'kavana, it should have a din like a tinik ben yain without das, without kavana is like without das, it should become yain nesach. Amalahu. So Rav answered, no, this that I said a tinik ben yain is us is the yain, that's v'shtiya, is only by drinking. But b'hanami amri, they ever to say that it's us by no. Zag yimad gufa marav tinik, a goyish, a child ben yain a day old, oisa yain nesach. If the child touches the wine, it becomes yain nesach. In fact, yimad eisvei Rav Simon Rav Chia Rav Simon Rav Chia had asked a child to Rav Halikeich Avodim min Avdichavim, one who buys Avodim, slaves from a goy, Shemol v'lei tavlu, that they were circumcised themselves, but they weren't able. So as long as both of them were not done, they're still considered regular goyim, and there's no shaila that if they touch the yain, it's yain nesach. So to the children of shvachis, which is more lenient, because they were raised in a Jewish house, which they never even had, they never knew about the ways of serving idols. If they were circumcised and they weren't able themselves, Rukam, Ubidrasan, their spittle, and what they trot on or what they sit on, it has a din of midas, all the sheets or beds beneath the first beds become also the shuk. If it wasn't Rishus Harabim that they trotted on, or there was spittle, Rishus Harabim, which is Safek Tuma, it's a Safek Tuma over there. In Rishus Harabim, halacha is that it's tired. Here it's a Safek. If the Eved is both Mal v'Tavlu, Tamei. Nevertheless, we say it's Tamei. Others say that it's tired because it's unusual that if he already went through the procedure of Bila, he probably was telling himself just to dip in water is no big deal. So since it's unusual, so if it's in the Rishus Harabim, something in the Rishus Harabim is going to be Tahir. Now the Gemara deals with an additional din with the wine. Adults make it into yain nesach. Ktanim don't make it into yain nesach if they touch the wine. Which are considered as G'day, which are considered as Ketanim. Says Gemara, G'daylim, Hayedim B'tiv, Avid Zichot Misham Shah. G'daylim are one who know the ways of serving the idols, the way and those that and the Misham Shah, the way the things are served to the Avoda zara. Ketanim, but Ketanim are Hayedim B'tiv, Avid Zichot Misham Shah. Ketanim means one who doesn't know the ways of the serving the Avoda zara. And his kasha ketanim iyas, but we learned gedolim ketanim loy. You learned the Fedish that only gedolim are going to make the yain into yain nesach, but ketanim not, and which contradicts the words of Rav. Rav said even a tinik ben yaimei makes the yain nesach, makes the wine into yain nesach by touching it. If you want to think about Abdei Shvachis, teach that the Braisa said it's going to be mutter if it's ketanim. It's talking about that they were brought up, they were raised in a Jewish house, and they don't know at all the ways of Avodas Yechavim. So the Gemara tries to shog up this teretz. Havechein ka'ama. We said the Fedish in the Braisa. V'chein. It says halakei chavad b'na'ayit kechavim bolu v'loi tavlo v'chein b'nei hashvachis. So it seems like you're comparing the avodim that were bought from Avodas Yechavim is similar to b'nei hashvachis. And the Gemara no, v'chein is going arukum midrasan, that they are metamek kizavim with the spittle or with midas. There's no chiluk between avodim that were bought from Avodas Yechavim to b'nei shvachis who were raised in a Jewish house. But the sake of the Braisa, which deals with beyayin nesach, and he's mechala between gderim and ketanim, it's only talking about b'nei hashvachis over there. By b'nei hashvachis, we're going to say it doesn't become beyayin nesach. This status makes sense according to the opinion that's greatest tummy, that the spittle and the drisa and the trotting is going to be tummy. So the Braisa came to compare that the Bnei Hashvachis will have the same din as Avodas Yechavim that was bought that was bought in Avodas Yechavim. That the Chacham were geyser that even Bnei Hashvachis will be tummy, will have the tumah of Reikon and Bidras. El Laman that Rukun Midrasam is tired. Maya Glumaima. What are you going to say then? If you're going to say that the one who buys Evet from the Avodas Yechavim, which was not raised in a Yiddish house, and you say nevertheless it's tired, the spittle and the midas is tired, for sure B'nei Hashvachis is going to be tired. Why do you have to say V'chein B'nei Hashvachis? And the Gemara B'Hakamash, this is what he's come to tell you, that the din of Avodim are Dugya the B'nei Shvachis. The din, one who buys an Evet, is going to be similar to the din of B'nei Shvachis. Ma B'nei Shvachis, Mother B'nei Tavlu, who does say Yayin Nesach? Only then, if they were only circumcised but weren't table themselves, only then can they make the Yayin to Yayin Nesach. But Mother Tavlu. But if it was they circumcised themselves and they were table themselves, lie. We're going to say that they were raised in the house of a Yid, even though they were Malva Tavla Shem Avdus, they're going to have a din like a Vadim and not like Avodas Yechavim. And Af Avodim, also Avodim that were bought from Goyim, didn't came that if they were Malva Tavlu, they won't make it into Yayin Nesach. To teach you that they have the same din as Bnei Shvachis, the moment that they will circumcise themselves and they will table themselves, if they touch wine, it doesn't become Yain Nesach. The same thing as even if he bought an Evet from a guy that was not raised in a Jewish house, but once he was mal and he was table himself, the din will be that if they touch Yain, it doesn't become Yain Nesach. What's the Chiddush? Lafuki, the Rav Nachman HaMishmol, it comes to school, Rav Nachman HaMishmol, Rav Nachman HaMishmol. Now, Rav Nachman said the name Hashmal. One who buys Evet from a guy, even though the guy was mal and table himself, it still becomes Yayin Nesach. Even if he did both, he was mal and table himself. Till he won't mention the idols at all it won't come out of his mouth. Kamash Malan. The loy comes in the Gemara and teaches us no, that we don't say that. Only we say since he was malo b'tavu, he doesn't have to wait 12 months, meaning till he forgets, until the words of Avodas Yechavim is removed from his mouth. Rather, right after Mila and Tefillah, the halach will be that it doesn't, that touching will not make it into Yayin Nesach. So you want to go for we had previously learned. One who buys Avodim from a guy, even though he was mal and table himself, if they touch it, it still becomes Yayin Nesach till the Avodas Yechavim is removed from their mouths. How long does it take that the Avodas Yechavim should be removed from their mouths? Rabbi Shimon Levi said till 12 months. If you look at the Taisus, says Taisus, when it comes to a goy, that's only by Evet. We're going to wait till 12 months because he is not doing it wholeheartedly. because he's doing it mitzad emes Rabbi Alav. So therefore we could say Be'edim is Gai B'Leiv Shalom. That's why we got to wait 12 months till Shetishka V'Tzchach Mepiyam. But Goyim, Stam Goyim Shemolim, B'Tevlim, Mertzoinam, Uladaitam. But Stam Goy, who on his own initiative, he wants to become a Ger, we say immediately after he was Mal and Tel himself, that's different. He did it wholeheartedly, B'Leiv Shalom, and therefore immediately after he's a Ger, he doesn't have to wait 12 months. One who buys Eved from a Goy, Shemal V'lei Tavlu, that was Mal, and he wasn't Tavlu himself. Shemal V'lei Tavlu sold to B'nai Ashvachis. We're repeating the Gemara from before, that he was Mal, but he wasn't Tavlu. Rukan Umidrasan, the spittle land that made us the trotting. Bashuk, if it's in the marketplace, even though it's in the Shusarad, Tummy, it's going to be Tummy, because the Chacham goes on them like a Zav in every aspect. Others say, no, the Rukan Umidrasan is Tahir. If their spittle and their trotting is going to be Tahir, because it's unusual that if he already was Mal himself, he's not going to be Tahir himself. So we have to, since it's unusual, we'll say it's Tahir. Yainan, when it comes to wine, if these Avodim touched wine, if they turn in, if they touch it, it becomes Yayin Nesach. Ktanim, they don't, if they touch it, it doesn't become Yayin Nesach. What are Gedolim, what are Ktanim? Gedolim, Gedolim are those that are well versed in the ways that you serve the Avodah Zara and its servants. Ktanim are those that don't know the ways of the serving of the idols. But behold, we still learn in only if he was circumcised and he wasn't tavul, then the yain becomes yain nesach if they touch it. But if they circumcise themselves and were tavul, that touching does not be ma'aser it into yain nesach. Not like Rav Nachman B'Shem Shmuel, who says that even if it was Malav Tavlu, you still got to wait 12 months till Tishka V'Tzicham Piyam. And for the Gemara Tigma, we could explain this diuk in Malav Tavlu, that the touching in the wine doesn't answer it. Abnei Shvachis is going on the children of Shvachis who were raised lechatchila in the house of a Yid, and they were Malav Tavlu. So their touching the wine doesn't answer it. But Avodim that were bought from Eved Yecham, since they really know well the ways of serving the idols, so even if they were mal and travel themselves, their touching will answer the yayin till 12 months when the Tishka V'Tzchach Piyam. You might ask the Kasha, we learned befedish that the Bnei Shvachis have the same din as buying Evet from Avitzke Chavim. So the Gemara V'chein Zarukon Umidrason is going on the Tumah part, on the spittle and the trotting, but the gate, their Tumah, they're equally considered as a Zav. Sai Bnei Ashvaras are similar to Evet that was bought from the Avitzke Chavim. L'gabe Isa Yenam, when it comes to touching the wine, they're not similar, like the words of Shmuel. The Gemara continues to ask, that all makes sense according to the Mandalma that says that Rukon, the spittle and the Midrash and the trotting is Tameh. But according to Mandalma that says even one who buys Evet from Avitzki Chavim is Tahir, the Rukon and Midrash is Tahir. Why do you have to say that the Bnei Ashvachis, the Bnei Ashvachis are also going to be Tahir? For sure it's going to be Tahir. I don't need you to tell me that. If you bought a slave from a guy who was not raised in the Yiddish house, knows the ways of Avitzke Chavim, we say nevertheless the spittle and the Midrash is Tahir. For sure, Bnei Ashvachis that were raised in a Jewish house, for sure it should be Tahir. What do you have to say that for? And this is what he's come to teach us. Ha'avodim, that the din of Avodim is Dumya de Bnei Shvachis, is similar to the din of Bnei Shvachis. Ma Bnei Shvachis, G'dolim Hudais Yayin Nesach, only if it's G'dolim that touch the Yayin, it transforms it into Yayin Nesach, but K'tanim Einos Nesach. But K'tanim do not make it into Yain Nesach if they touched it. Why? Because since they were raised in the house of Eden and they're not baki in the ways of serving idols, therefore it doesn't become Yain Nesach. Avodim, so too Avodim that was bought from Evdi Kichavim, Nami. Only Gedolim makes in Yain Nesach. The Gedols make it Yain Nesach who touching them. Ketanim ain't ois in Yain Nesach, but if it's Ketanim, even though they have a din like Evdi Kichavim, it doesn't transform it into Yain Nesach. Lafuchi derav, to exclude from Rav, Damarav, Tini ben Yemei, ois in Yain Nesach. Rav says even if it's one who does know b'chlal the ways of Avoda zara, Tini ben Yemi does know nothing. He has no das. The Rav would say it's Yain Nesach. We're excluding from what the Rav says. Kamash Milon, the loy. No, only Gedolim will answer. Only those that really know the ways of serving the idols, they make the wine into Yain Nesach, not Ketanim. So there was the story that was in the city of Mechuzah. There was this guy that came into the store of the Yid, and he wanted to buy wine. So the guy asked the Yid, do you have wine to sell? So they say them in the store said, Loi, they didn't want to deal with the guy. Have a Yosef, Chamra bidavla. So, and there was wine lying in a pail. Shni beyadi shichshir bey. The guy put his hand in it and he started to shake his hands in the wine. So the guy said, "Bitmiya," in a wondrous way. He said, "I love Chamru. Is this not wine?" Shakle heich b'dische. The Yid got angry. Out of his anger, he took this pail of wine, shakle dana, and he threw it into the barrel, not to sell it to him. Now becomes the shaila: could he sell this wine? Rava was matir to sell it to goyim because he felt that this wine that the guy touched was shalei kavana to turn it to use it as avoda zara. So therefore, it becomes only as b'shtiya, but not b'ana. If and they asked the wine, Nafke, she put it up with shor. The shofars came out from the base medrash of Rabbah, blowing to be machriz, to proclaim that the wine is mutbana. And Nafke, she put it. And the shofars came out of Rav Huna Bar China, Rav Huna Bar Nachman's base medrash, and they blew the shofar and were machas that the wine is also even ba'ana. So the Gemara brings a story about the shaila. Ikla Rav Huna B'rei Rav Nachman Mecheza. Rav Huna B'rei Rav Nachman happened to come to the city of Rav Mecheza. Amalei Rav Eliyakim Shammai. Rav said to Shamish to Reik Gali, close the doors of my house. The late night saying should need it. I don't want, meaning Rav Huna, to come to bother me. I don't want this person to distract me. And he didn't want Rav Huna to start asking about his shita. Oh, look, nevertheless, Rav Huna came into Rabbah. Amalei, Rav Huna said to Rabbah, Kai Gavnamai, what is that halacha in such a even where the guy puts his hands and shakes the wine? In the wine of a Yid, Shalevi Kavanah, to use it for Yain Nesach. Rabbah said, Hayain Asafilu Ba'ana. The Yain is even As Ba'ana. So Rav Huna said to him, asked him, but you yourself said, Shich Sheikh, Yod B'Yain, if the guy waved his hands in the water to show there's wine, but not L'Shem Nisuch, Ein Oisen, B'Kach Yain Nesach. We said we don't make it into Yain Nesach. And you were materit. Says, you want to, since Rabbi didn't want to say the finish that he retracted, he says, hey, Madam Riano, when did I say that if the shishich yain mutabana, what did I say is mutabana? I meant levan it made ahuchama, that the whole barrel except for the pail of water where he shook his hand, the guy shook his hands in that wine. That part of the wine he cannot have on, so you deduct the money that he got, the worth of what the pail was worth from the whole barrel, and the rest of the barrel he could keep the money. Mitmei dahu chamra, from the money he deducts from the wine of that full barrel, a pail full. But mitmei dahu chamra, from the meaning he says to Ravuna, mitmei dahu chamra, from the wine of that pail. Did I then say that he could have a no? Absolutely not. I only meant to deduct that amount of wine that was in the pail from the whole barrel. That wine he cannot have enough, but the rest of the wine he could. Stop. Yeah.